Amid a windswept Manhattan night, Harper Sterling receives a cryptic message. If you don't come alone, Archer Blackwood will die. Without hesitation, Lincoln Hawthorne plunges into a labyrinth of conspiracy, where the FBI and Genesis Corp clash for control. In every shadowed corner, every line of code hides damning evidence. Will he decrypt it before sunrise? In the sleek mirrored office of Mr. Hawthorne Technologies, the first rays of sunlight slipped through towering glass windows, casting a shimmering glow across the glass desk. Monroe Blake knocked softly before entering, placing a thick folder on the corner of Lincoln Hawthorne's desk. She spoke directly, her voice calm yet tinged with urgency. "Sir, Genesis Corp has confirmed the meeting for tomorrow at 10 a.m. Lincoln's eyes remained fixed on his screen, where numbers and blue graph lines soared skyward, proof of explosive growth since the preliminary agreement was signed. He gave a slight nod, lips pressed tight in silence, then said coolly, "Thank you, Monroe. Tell Archer Blackwood I want to review all documents one last time before submission tonight." The order was swift, decisive, the hallmark of an ambitious CEO. Lincoln Hawthorne turned back to his screen, his cold eyes unwavering, though a fierce focus burned beneath their surface. He knew this meeting wasn't just a pivotal moment for the company. It could unlock lucrative government contracts. Every detail had to be flawless, not a single legal clause out of place. Across the room, the steady clack of keyboards echoed, like the heartbeat of a relentless machine. Meanwhile, in the long, dim hallway of the high-rise, Harper Sterling trudged along with her supply cart, the dry squeak of its wheels reverberating in the musty air. 3 weeks into her job, she had no access to boardrooms or confidential files. Her daily cleaning tasks seemed mundane, but today something in the atmosphere made her pause. A boardroom door stood slightly ajar, whispers drifting through the gap. Harper stopped, listening. Archer Blackwood's warm, grave voice carried, "Genesis is ready. Once he signs, there's no turning back." Another voice, deeper, urgent, unfamiliar, replied, "Caldwell Technologies will have a new owner within 24 hours. Harper Sterling's heart froze. 3 weeks on the job, she had no authority or evidence to speak up, but her gut screamed that something was gravely wrong. If Lincoln signed the contract unaware, all his efforts and reputation could collapse, and he might face legal fallout. She stepped back, struggling to stay calm, her mind racing. What do I do with this? Will anyone believe a new janitor? Harper moved on, deliberately rattling the cart as if by accident, then turned away from the boardroom, her pulse pounding. She knew saving Lincoln would require silent, swift action. Archer Blackwood's silhouette faded into the hallway's cold light, his low chuckle cut off as the door slammed shut, leaving the sense of a fateful gate closing behind. That night, as most office lights dimmed, the executive floor still glowed with faint blue light. Harper Sterling steeled herself. She resolved to wait until early morning, slip into Archer Blackwood's private office, and gather any evidence she could. The thought of confronting power and ambition surged adrenaline through her veins. This was her chance to prove she was more than an invisible figure. Back in the top-floor office, Lincoln Hawthorne leaned back in his chair, fingers tapping rhythmically on the keyboard. The soft glow of his desk lamp illuminated the sharp lines of his face. In his mind, he ran through every possible scenario. Was Genesis hiding something beyond a business deal? His vigilance kept sleep at bay, despite 2 decades navigating Wall Street's cutthroat deals. He called Monroe Blake, instructing, "Prepare the files. I want the final contract down to the last semicolon by 8 a.m. His voice was crisp as shattered crystal, cold yet resolute. At that moment, in the empty hallway, Harper Sterling gazed at the office through the glass, where light spilled onto the polished marble floor. She took a deep breath. Tomorrow she'd cross the line from janitor to whistleblower, altering a CEO's fate. clutching her bag with her phone and a small USB where she'd secretly copied the Coldwell takedown folder last night. She stood in the calm before the storm, her heart racing like a story about to be rewritten. And then, before the night fully faded, Harper Sterling turned away, her silhouette flickering on the gleaming marble, ready for an unforgiving battle against ambition and power to save Lincoln Hawthorne, a leader she believed deserved both his future and his honor. The hallway lights cast a faint glow as Harper Sterling gently closed the door to the empty office. Dawn's mist lingered in the air, seeping into the fluorescent beams, creating a scene both serene and fraught with danger. She swiped her keycard, the dry click echoing as Archer Blackwood's office door unlocked, granting her entry to secrets that could topple an empire. On the desk, a laptop sat open, its screen displaying unread emails and neatly arranged financial charts. Nearby, a thick folder with the Genesis Corp logo lay askew among routine paperwork. Harper took a deep breath, rolled the chrome chair to the desk, and set her bag on the floor. Her hands trembled as she opened the first drawer where Archer Blackwood's private documents were kept, unlocked with a sleek black USB left carelessly inside. In that moment, Harper's heart pounded as if it might burst. There was no turning back. Glancing around, she plugged the USB into the laptop, eyes glued to the screen. Folders appeared in tidy rows, but one stood out, boldly underlined, Hawthorne Takedown. She double-clicked, revealing a series of Excel spreadsheets titled Financial Statements, Lincoln Hawthorne, alongside large PDFs labeled Offshore Accounts with Caribbean bank addresses. The screen's dim light reflected on Harper's face, her eyes wide with shock. The numbers were expertly falsified, fabricated profits, money funneled through scattered accounts, all tied to Lincoln Hawthorne's name. She scrolled through, her chest tightening at the red text in the corner of each page, plan to frame. Snapping photos with her phone, she captured every piece of evidence. Each image was a fragment of a sinister plot. Each second made it clearer. If Lincoln signed the contract tomorrow, this evidence would vanish, and he'd be branded a villain. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway. Harper flinched, her pulse racing. She ducked, silenced her phone, and yanked the USB from the laptop. The screen flicked back to a Delta Airlines itinerary, erasing all traces of Hawthorne Takedown. Breathing shallowly, she stifled her panic, closed the laptop, and slipped the USB into the drawer's hinge. The door creaked open. Archer Blackwood's icy voice cut through. "I need the progress report. Open the door now." Without hesitation, Harper stepped out, flashing a casual smile. "I'm here early, sir. Need anything, I'm ready to help." Her footsteps glided across the short fiber carpet, the faint clatter of her shoes and cartwheels blending into a stifled melody. Before leaving the hallway, she paused, steadying her breath, and glanced at the elevator button. Lincoln Hawthorne's office, where Monroe Blake was preparing morning files, was just 2 floors away. But first, she needed to secure the photos and alert him within hours. Time was running out. As New York City's first sunlight grazed the glass walls, Harper had already backed up the photos to an encrypted cloud and wiped her phone's history. She faked a call to the cleaning crew but secretly texted Lincoln Hawthorne. Z0N, check your email ASAP. Urgent. One message, and she knew he'd notice immediately. Relief and dread swirled within her. After hitting send, there was no going back. Crossing the grand lobby, the company's relics, an abstract painting, a gleaming metal logo, stood as silent witnesses to the brewing drama. The swipe of her card, the slide of glass doors, and the aroma of roasted coffee from the nearby Starbucks mingled in the air. Harper clutched her supply bag, but her hand held evidence that could shake tomorrow's boardroom. Each step was a vow to protect justice for Lincoln Hawthorne and prove that even a hidden janitor could achieve the extraordinary. When the elevator dinged at the executive floor, Harper pushed through the door, her eyes scanning the glass-walled offices. Inside the spacious room, staff bustled, preparing for the signing, unaware that in hours the numbers in those documents would expose Archer Blackwood's true face and cast Lincoln Hawthorne as either hero or scapegoat. She clenched her fist, whispering to herself, "I have to be faster. 1 second too late, and he'll sign his downfall." With all the courage she could muster, Harper approached Mr. Hawthorne's office, ready for the next move in this high-stakes game. In the opulent boardroom of Mr. Hawthorne Technologies, sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling glass, glinting off the ebony table and sleek black leather chairs. Lincoln Hawthorne entered, his tall, lean frame sharp in a tailored suit, clutching a thick contract. The air was heavy, the rustle of papers audible as Genesis Corp's lawyer arranged documents. Across the table, Genesis's hard-nosed executives sat with eager, triumphant eyes, poised to seize this pivotal moment. As the meeting began, a Genesis representative's voice droned, listing terms with mechanical precision. Lincoln listened silently, fingers tapping lightly on the contract's cover. When the discussion reached the liability clause, his gaze faltered. The wording in liability clause, reviewed dozens of times, felt off, with new phrases not in the final draft. Frowning, he raised a hand. This section. Liability for third-party claims. Why does it now include subject to recourse? That wasn't in the prior version. The room froze. The Genesis rep looked up, flashing a forced smile. Just minor tweaks for clarity, Mr. Yes. Lawyers worked overnight to ensure transparency. Lincoln's eyes narrowed, but he restrained himself. Transparency doesn't justify altering core meanings. The Genesis rep glanced at his team, who nodded as if prepared, urging, "Let's move forward. Time's tight." A Genesis lawyer quietly prompted everyone to shift to signing and media photos, the room lurching into a rushed phase as if it were a mere PR stunt. Then, a fleeting image of Harper Sterling's anxious eyes and urgent voice in the hallway flashed through Lincoln's mind. He recalled her frantic plea, "Mr. Hawthorne, don't sign. It's a trap." He'd initially dismissed it as a new employee's mistake, but now, as things shifted, doubt gnawed at him. Taking a deep breath, he stood, tapping the table. "I need a moment with my team." The Genesis reps and lawyers exchanged frowns, but relented, exiting swiftly. With the door closed, only Lincoln, Archer Blackwood, and 2 trusted aides remained, the tension taut as a wire. Lincoln stepped forward, locking eyes with Archer. "Care to explain? Harper Sterling, a janitor, claims my partner is plotting to frame me. I'm not questioning her. I want your explanation." His voice was calm, as sharp as a blade. Harper must have misheard or hallucinated. His tone hardened. "We have deadlines. Focus." Before Lincoln could respond, the door slammed open. All eyes turned to a phalanx of FBI agents in dark suits, weapons holstered. Leading them was Preston Carlisle, his stern face flashing an FBI badge. "Lincoln Hawthorne, I'm Agent Carlisle. We have a warrant for search and arrest related to financial fraud at Genesis Corp." "Nobody moves." His voice was clear, commanding, cutting through the room's lingering coffee and bottled water scent. The room fell silent, papers scattered, a forgotten microphone buzzing. Archer Blackwood paled, leaping up. "How dare you disrupt a business deal?" Carlisle coolly raised a file. "We've investigated Genesis for months. A tip also revealed you, Mr. Blackwood, conspired to frame Mr. Hawthorne for fraud. Emails, financials, everything's verified. The evidence was airtight. Offshore transactions, dummy accounts, all bearing undeniable digital fingerprints." In that moment, Lincoln's trust shattered. His closest ally stood accused of betrayal. The metallic click of handcuffs on Archer's wrists echoed, followed by chaos among Genesis lawyers and executives. PowerPoint screens froze, and internal phones rang incessantly. Lincoln's aides nodded to Carlisle, handing over witness lists. Amid the turmoil, Lincoln sat still, his heart sinking into stunned silence. His gaze settled on one clear image, Harper Sterling's tense yet courageous face. As Archer was led away, Lincoln checked his phone, opening an email. A red-flagged message from an anonymous address. "Check your email. I sent you everything." Dozens of PDFs appeared, detailing the conspiracy and evidence Harper had gathered. It was meticulous, irrefutable. He bowed his head, eyes scanning numbers and concise paragraphs under the header, Operation Hawthorne Takedown. Amid the FBI's hurried steps and Genesis staff's clamor, Lincoln stood, jaw tight. Carlisle placed a hand on his shoulder. "We need your cooperation to wrap this up. Everything will be clarified." Lincoln nodded, voice hoarse. "Of course, I'll do what's right, but first, I need to find her." He rushed from the boardroom as Monroe Blake, his loyal assistant, hurried over. "Mr. Hawthorne, Miss Sterling's gone. I can't find her." A jolt of alarm hit him. The woman who'd saved him was missing. Beyond the glass walls, he realized the labyrinthine building he'd just escaped was only the start of a fiercer battle. Fear for Harper's safety and the company's future intertwined, stirring an unexpected tremor in the heart of the stoic CEO. The boardroom, still reeling from chaos, echoed with the fading clamor of hurried footsteps, papers strewn across the floor as Archer Blackwood was led away in handcuffs under the FBI's watch. Lincoln Hawthorne rose from his seat, his panicked gaze sweeping the space, moments ago a legal battlefield, now littered with empty chairs and a table smudged with hasty fingerprints. He stepped into the hallway, struggling to steady his racing pulse, each footfall resounding in the executive floor's silence. Harper Sterling's trembling plea echoed in his mind. "Don't sign. It's a trap." Dread surged. He couldn't fathom that the one person who warned him, a seemingly ordinary janitor, had vanished without a trace after this dramatic reversal. Lincoln hurried down the stairs, into the elevator, and straight to the communal kitchen, where Harper often grabbed an early coffee. He paused at the white marble counter, eyes scanning her cart of cleaning supplies and chemicals, but the space was eerily quiet save for the drip of the coffee machine. He dialed. "Monroe? Any sign of Harper?" Monroe Blake's voice crackled through, hesitant. "No, sir. I haven't seen her since Blackwood was taken away." The silence that followed felt like the world holding its breath. Lincoln hung up, his eyes darkening like a storm-brewing sky. He knew if he didn't find Harper soon, his carefully laid plans could collapse. She held the key to his vindication. Rushing through the hallway, he flung open office doors, checked small meeting rooms, even searched the employee storage area. No sign of her. The echo of her high heels seemed to linger in his mind, fueling his urgency. Then his phone buzzed, flashing Agent Carlisle, the man who'd led the raid. Lincoln answered, his voice tight. "Preston, where is she? I need to see her now." On the other end, Preston Carlisle's tone was calm but grave. "Mr. Hawthorne, Harper Sterling isn't just a janitor. She's a private investigator who infiltrated Genesis Corp for months to gather evidence tied to her father, August Sterling's case. Yes, she's our key informant in dismantling this fraud ring." The revelation hit Lincoln like a thunderbolt, freezing him in the building's chilly, windswept hallway. She'd spoken to him as a mere cleaner, but behind that facade was a silent warrior braving danger. Awe and gratitude flooded him. He realized her trembling glances and fingerprints on last night's boardroom door bore the mark of a fearless operative. "She did this alone?" he asked, voice hoarse. Carlisle cleared his throat. He didn't need an invitation. She risked her life for the truth. "We monitored her, but couldn't access Blackwood's office like she did. Now, she might be in danger." Lincoln's heart clenched. He hung up and raced upstairs to the maintenance area, the only place still unlocked. A steel door stood ajar, spilling dim yellow light. Holding his breath, he eased it open, stepping into a corridor lined with small storage rooms. Stacks of boxes loomed, metal shelves casting long shadows that merged with his own. In that moment, he recalled Harper's resolute yet fearful face as she whispered her warning. She'd gambled her life for truth and justice. He murmured, "Harper, where are you?" His voice echoed off the metal walls, fading into silence. Then, a faint creak. The door to a nearby storeroom inched open, a woman's silhouette flickering behind stacked cartons. Harper Sterling emerged, brushing back her high ponytail, dressed in a crisp white shirt and black chinos, a stark contrast to her usual janitor's uniform. Her face bore traces of exhaustion, but her eyes blazed with resolve. "Been looking for me long?" she said softly, her voice steady. Lincoln froze, then rushed to embrace her, relief and worry spilling over. "Are you okay? I thought something happened to you." Harper stepped back, her gaze unwavering. "I'm fine. No more crying in front of you. I've sent all the evidence to your personal email. Now, can you do something for me?" Without waiting for more, Lincoln gripped her arm, his voice firm. "You've done enough. No more hiding. I need you by my side, officially, as the company's internal investigator. I'll protect you, and we'll uncover every remaining plot together." The fierceness in his promise made Harper nod, a fleeting smile blending exhaustion with relief. In the quiet storeroom, two people from vastly different worlds found each other in a fight for justice and honor. The yellow light spilled onto the steel door, their elongated shadows a testament to a new, unshakable alliance. The dawn light filtered softly through the panoramic glass of the executive floor as Lincoln Hawthorne stepped into the office, still clutching the FBI report and the incriminating email from Harper Sterling sent last night. He strode to his desk, hands in his pockets, and fixed his gaze on her, now sitting upright in the leather chair, with a resolute look. "You don't have to sneak around anymore. I've decided to appoint you as internal investigator. Here." He pulled a company-logged access card from his suit jacket and handed it to her. "This card grants you entry to any room, any folder in the system. Access whatever you need directly." In the quiet office, with only the steady hum of typing, Harper Sterling nodded slightly, her fingers brushing the card, as if grasping a ticket to freedom. Immediately, Harper's eyes locked onto the 3 computer screens tucked in the corner. She opened the contract address book, then dove into the internal database where every signed file from the past 18 months was stored. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. "Sorry to keep you waiting," she said, scanning a list of names and contract numbers from major partners to tiny shell companies. It's clear there are 12 shell companies used to funnel money with the H marker. They are all suspected to tie back to Genesis Corp. She extracted the list, each entry complete with office addresses, tax IDs, and escrow transfer details. Equal queries burrowed deep into the database structure, making her lose track of time. Lincoln stood nearby, sipping a perfectly brewed black coffee, office standard, his eyes glued to the adjacent screen. "Got any key notes?" he asked. Harper pointed to the last line of the CSV file. "Note the transactions on 11/12, 2/3, and 3/27, all with $5,200,000, 0 cents transfers to the Hawthorne International Trust account at a Caribbean bank." She twirled a gleaming fountain pen. "These align with the dates we signed the federal government partnership, our biggest segment." Without another word, Lincoln opened a diagramming app on his computer. On a blank canvas, he dragged nodes: Hawthorne Technologies, Genesis Corp, the 12 shell companies, then drew arrows tracing the money flows. Each connection materialized like dark veins snaking through a financial machine. "There it is," he exhaled, his finger moving decisively. "They're building a safety net for a new deal, and their next target is my old friend Everett Sinclair." Everett Sinclair's name landed at the diagram's core, tied to government contracts. "Everett's company just won a cybersecurity bid with the Department of Defense," Harper explained. "If Genesis wants to eliminate competitors, they'll use the same method. Set up shell companies, manipulate records, then take them down with fraud allegations." Lincoln's face darkened. "Then we need to strike first." He turned to Harper, voice sharp. "Call Everett now. Set up a private meeting to warn him and gather more data. In an instant, Harper dialed Everett Sinclair's mobile. The ring echoed in the room. Then his voice came through. "Lincoln? Quite a surprise to hear from you. What's up?" Everett's tone was half skeptical, but composed. Lincoln spoke quickly. "Everett, it's serious. I've uncovered Genesis Corp's plan to sabotage your company with fabricated reports. I'll be there this afternoon. Have everything ready." Everett chuckled dryly. "I'll be waiting. Always wanted to know who's squeezing me." As the call ended, Harper and Lincoln exchanged a knowing glance. "They fell for it when he trusted us," she said, adding, "If we do nothing, he's next." With time running short, Lincoln issued orders. "Monroe, schedule an emergency meeting with the Internal Audit Board and hire an independent auditing firm. I want every government contract and financial document from the past 18 months reviewed again." Monroe Blake typed swiftly, slotting the meeting into Outlook and emailing external auditors. The office shifted into high gear, from assistants to IT. Everyone at full throttle. It felt like the company was powered by a turbine, each beat fueling a relentless data hunt. Amid the chaos, Harper Sterling entered the cybersecurity room, where 5 specialists sat before dozens of green LED screens. She handed the team leader a USB containing the original Hawthorne takedown files she'd copied earlier, then instructed, "I need digital fingerprints analyzed on these files. Origins and data movement, simultaneously trace it back to Genesis servers." The team nodded. Python and PowerShell scripts flashing to life. The air was taut as a bowstring, each keystroke advancing the strategy. By late morning, the financial bloodstream diagram was complete. Lincoln Hawthorne and Harper Sterling stood before the connected map, 2 poles. Genesis Corp, led by Serafina Everhart as chairman and Everett Sinclair's cybersecurity sector. Between them, green and red lines traced money flows crisscrossing the globe. Harper emphasized, "If they keep pumping money into shell companies and spread fraud rumors, we'll catch the signal. Then Preston Carlisle's FBI can step in and net them." Lincoln asked, "Do we wait or strike first?" She replied instantly, "Strike. Meet Everett tonight at his penthouse. Show him this diagram and roll out the next phase." Lincoln's eyes gleamed with resolve. "I want Everett as a strategic partner, not just a victim. When this breaks open, he'll help us dismantle Genesis once and for all." The phone buzzed, signaling the appointment. 6 p.m., penthouse, 42nd floor. They nodded in unison, stepped into the elevator, and prepared for a turning point in the underworld of financial warfare. Phase 2 of the plan was ready to launch. As the sunset cast its glow over the Hawthorne Technologies skyscraper, all eyes were fixed on the financial web Lincoln Hawthorne and Harper Sterling had just mapped out. But could mere numbers and diagrams hold their own against the juggernaut of Genesis Corp? The evening at Everett Sinclair's penthouse promised to unveil more untold secrets, from silent oaths with allies to the covert schemes of enemies. Would Everett be ready to trust a plan woven from fragments of fraud? And what would unfold when Preston Carlisle's FBI suddenly entered the fray, turning covert calculations into a relentless chase? The ringing phone brought a burning question. Do we retreat or charge forward? Step into the next chapter, where every plan pulses with life, where trust, strategy, and courage are all weighed on a razor's edge. The morning mist clung to the still lake as Lincoln Hawthorne, Harper Sterling, and Everett Sinclair gathered around a rough-hewn wooden table in the lakeside cabin. Outside, rows of pines stood like silent sentinels. Inside, 3 minds pieced together a strategy for the greatest battle of wits they'd ever faced. Lights streamed through the glass, illuminating a digital map, a financial bloodstream linking Hawthorne Technologies, 12 shell companies, and Genesis Corp. Each arrow, each node carried the weight of thwarting a colossal scheme. Harper Sterling tapped her pen on the whiteboard, swiftly outlining 3 phases. First, we launch the bait, let Genesis think they've found a new vulnerability. Next, we trigger the preemptive trap, collect data as they breach. Finally, We detonate the overwhelming evidence, hand it to the FBI to choke their financial pipelines. Her voice carried the precision of a seasoned investigator, each word a seal of intent. Everett Sinclair nodded, tracing a line on the digital diagram. Tonight, I announced the expansion of my cybersecurity project with the Department of Defense. It's the juiciest bait we could dangle. Genesis won't resist trying to crush a rival with that kind of contract. He circled his name, marking press release 8 p.m. The media will amplify it, hinting my company's in a rival's crosshairs. Enough to force their hand. Lincoln Hawthorne paused, sipping his strong black coffee. We can't let them suspect too soon, he said slowly, his gaze sharp as a blade. Make them feel they're in control, that they're calling the shots. Plant fake documents on a test server. I've set up an off-grid NAS. Anyone who scans it will find a trove of forged contracts, internal emails, and financial reports. Harper's fingers danced across the keyboard, remotely accessing the NAS. The fake files are encrypted, named like contract_review_Q4. I've embedded metadata to make it look like Everett's legal team updated them yesterday. She glanced at Everett with a sly smirk. Think of it as bait that smells like pure gold. They'll dive in with both hands. In the corner, a phone pinged, signaling a Zoom call with Preston Carlisle and the FBI team. Lincoln connected, and Preston's stern face appeared. I've stationed 6 tech agents at Sinclair Network's server farm. They'll monitor all inbound and outbound connections, logging IPs, timestamps, and ports. When the intruder shows, we'll trace them back to Genesis systems. Harper nodded. That's not all. We'll embed hidden trackers in each fake file, pinging a third-party server to pinpoint their geographic location. They'll grab and wipe, but they can't erase everything. That's when the FBI will have enough to dismantle their network. Everett grinned. Pure game theory. They think they're one step ahead, but we've already rigged the board. As afternoon light faded, the cabin dimmed, lit only by flickering screens and the wood fire's glow. The crackling warmth underscored the ticking clock. Lincoln stood, touching the mechanical watch on his wrist. We have 24 hours to kick off Phase 1. Harper, prep a backup USB and keep it on you. Everett, the press release goes out at 8 p.m., not a second early or late. Preston, the FBI needs to be ready by 9 p.m. After that, it's the calm before the storm. Harper nodded, locking eyes with her allies. I'll head out first to set the stage at Everett's headquarters. Stay on the encrypted channel. Don't let a single word slip. She slipped her hand into her pocket, pulling out a sleek black USB like a concealed blade. Everett shook Lincoln's hand. We're in motion. I'll handle physical security, double-locked server rooms, 360-degree motion camera. Anyone unauthorized shows up, I'll change the locks on the spot. His voice rang with confidence. Sinclair Network security is our first line of defense. Lincoln looked at them, exhaling softly. This isn't just about finance anymore. It's a fight for justice, for the honor of the innocent. Work like there's no tomorrow. In that moment, the lakeside cabin wasn't just a hideout. It was the nerve center of a campaign against a towering power. The fire's glow mirrored the unyielding resolve in their eyes. As night winds rattled the glass, carrying the eerie ripple of the lake, all three knew the moment to awaken their enemy was drawing near, and no one could predict what would follow. The streetlights reflected off the glass facade of Sinclair Networks as Everett Sinclair took the small stage at the internal press conference, gesturing boldly while introducing the new cybersecurity project with the Department of Defense. The room crackled with energy, applause thundering, and camera lenses panned across rows of officials. In the farthest corner, Harper Sterling sat still, tablet in hand, eyes glued to network monitoring software. She had planted the beta set of fake contract reports worth hundreds of millions within Sinclair Network's test environment. Everything was primed to lure the enemy out. As Everett declared, we're committed to elevating cybersecurity to new heights. An alert pinged from the monitoring room. On the screen, blinking dots signaled data packets from an unfamiliar IP address. Preston Carlisle, stern-faced beside Harper, gave a slight nod. They took the bait. Under the eerie green glow of dozens of screens, command lines surged like a flood, each packet hammering the system with persistent force, confirming the intruder wasn't just curious. Harper Sterling tapped a few keys, isolating the bait from the internal network and routing it to a monitored sandbox. On the screen, a Python script flashed in bold. Tracking_enabled equals true. I've embedded trackers, she whispered. Anyone downloading contract_Q4_gov will trigger a webhook to our relay server. The steady clack of mechanical keys filled the air, each press a silent arrow hitting its mark. In the small control room outside, Lincoln Hawthorne watched through the glass, gripping a black coffee. He recalled Harper's steely focus as she finalized the last line of code. "They won't stop," he exhaled. "Genesis Corp wants to dominate government contracts, and they'll crush anyone in their way." The lights of the building opposite seemed to flicker, signaling the enemy's approach. When the clock struck 8 p.m., Genesis hackers began their sweep. First came simple API queries, followed by brute force signals probing for passwords. A red alert flashed. Multiple failed SSH attempts detected. Harper typed a command activating full packet capture. Each packet was a puzzle piece, revealing their hunt for logic flaws in the authorization module. "They're like wading against a flood," she remarked, eyes fixed on the screen. In that tense moment, Preston Carlisle activated a small speaker. "Agents, stand by." Through earpieces, FBI agents responded. "Positioning 10-4. They had tech teams positioned near Genesis's network, awaiting orders. Lincoln nodded, issuing a cold command. "When they touch the bait, I want full packet capture, no leaks." The room fell silent, save for the hum of fans and blinking LED. Minutes later, the fake file was downloaded. The monitoring dashboard flashed. "Download complete. Contract_Q4_gov_V2PF." Harper exhaled. "They bought our trap." She backed up a copy to a secure NAS, then launched a meta-analysis tool. "Here's the digital fingerprint, 192.168.42.117. From here, we trace a screen displayed a cross-continental IP map, drawing a line from New York to a server in Singapore. Owned by a shell company." Without hesitation, Preston Carlisle ordered his trace team, set up for active interception, prepare the takedown. Radio chatter erupted, commands pounding like war drums. Hidden agents moved silently, ready to lock down the IP. Meanwhile, in the lakeside cabin, Everett Sinclair studied each number, sketching arrows to track the intruder's movements. Demand Kuksavage simply, "He can't escape," he repeated, eyes burning with resolve. At night's peak, past midnight, the chase hit its climax. The Singapore IP was locked down, and Genesis server abruptly lost connection to its shell nodes. On the network interface display, scattered light dots faded, signaling the collapse of fake financial channels. "Capturing evidence," Harper reported, her voice calm, but eyes glinting with the thrill of the hunt. Every log file, copy, and packet header was saved, packaged and sent to the FBI. As dawn broke, the final screen displayed. "Intrusion terminated. Target secured." Lincoln Hawthorne sighed in relief, pulling Harper Sterling close. "We've got enough to dismantle Genesis's financial network." She responded with a faint smile, her eyes still gleaming with cunning. In the corner, Preston Carlisle closed his laptop, murmuring, "Evidence delivered. Next move is legal." Before leaving the cabin, the group shared a weary yet triumphant embrace. Lincoln, Harper, Everett, and Preston. 4 warriors who'd just waged a thrilling cyber battle. Outside, the morning mist lifted, warm sunlight glinting off the lake, as if declaring, The stage is cleared, and now it's time to prepare for the next move. The city night descended, neon lights flickering outside the cybersecurity office windows of Sinclair Networks. On the desk, rows of green and red LED screens pulsed with data like a living heartbeat, reflecting in Harper Sterling's focused eyes. She sat cross-legged on the floor, fingers typing instinctively as millions of packets flooded the system. At the far end of the network tunnel, Genesis's hackers had taken the bait and begun a deep scan, like miners probing a war-torn tunnel. Harper didn't blink, her gaze locked on the terminal. "They're probing for vulnerabilities in the authorization module," she whispered, pulling up the packet capture dashboard. CLI lines scrolled like wildfire, each packet tagged with timestamps, hash codes, and payload sizes. She filtered the data. About 3.7 megabits per second hitting SSH port 2200, nearly all requests originating from 203.1245.19, a temporary IP we routed through a Singapore VPS. A suffocating tension spread as she spotted dozens of accepted public key for guest logs. The attacker was burrowing deep into the sandbox. In the corner, Preston Carlisle monitored via the FBI's mobile app. His stern face tracked real-time data. "Harper, what's the status? How much have you blocked?" Through her earpiece, Harper replied urgently. "I've isolated 12 malicious processes, but they've switched tactics, brute-forcing post requests with binary payload. They're trying to upload a shell script." She instantly deployed new firewall rules, dropping connections from 203-1245-19, redirecting failed attempts to a honeypot. The server hummed, network sockets flashing every second. Everett Sinclair, still in a sharp suit from the press conference, appeared behind Harper, his eyes gleaming with pride. "Everything good?" he asked softly, Aki's voice tinged with the fading echo of the crowd's applause. Harper turned, a faint smile on her lips. "They're hooked. I've secured the fake file channel. Now we collect evidence." On the second screen, the download log for contract_Q4_gov_V2PD appeared, tagged with Injected Tracker ID, S8921SG. Preston Carlisle nodded via camera. "Copy the packet captured to an encrypt team to lock down Genesis server once we have enough evidence. This server once we have enough evidence." His voice was low but clear. "No mistakes. We need to crush their financial pipeline before they wipe logs." Harper moved fast. The command TCP dump -Genesis_capture PEP. The capture file swelled with megabytes. Every header, every fake metadata payload was stored. She exhaled. "Done. I'll transfer a copy to the off-site NAs and sync to the FBI cloud." On the sniffer screen, packet traffic suddenly dwindled. The intruders sensed the trap and scrambled to disconnect. Connection reset by peer flashed a few times, then vanished. Lincoln Hawthorne appeared on the security camera feed, nodding in acknowledgement, his eyes steady as he reviewed the results. "How much evidence?" he asked. Harper raised her coffee mug, replying, "About 10 gigabytes of logs including SSH keys and shell scripts, of locked read-write they can't delete." He nodded, his voice firm. "Excellent. Now we move to the final step. Hand the evidence to Preston and nab the mastermind." Meanwhile, Everett Sinclair opened a secondary screen, displaying a complex financial pipeline diagram, shell company nodes, offshore accounts, dummy headquarters. He drew arrows tracing money flows. "They can't alter the transaction syntax. It's all stamped in digital proof." His eyes burned with resolve. "Tomorrow morning, we'll hold an internal press briefing exposing Genesis' scheme in detail. When the public piles on, they won't escape accountability." With the final keystrokes, Harper Sterling sent the encrypted capture file to the FBI server via SSH SCP/TMP/Genesis_capture PCAP. Carlisle at FBI.gov/evidence/Genesis/. She monitored the progress, then reported, "Upload complete. Preston, your legal team now has enough for a search warrant." On the video call, Preston Carlisle's face broke into a rare smile. "Outstanding work, Harper. Prepped for arrest warrants and account freezes. Will hit simultaneously in New York, London, and Singapore." Outside the cabin, night winds slipped through the door, carrying the rustle of pine leaves. In the dim indoor light, Lincoln Hawthorne, Harper Sterling, and Everett Sinclair leaned against the table, their eyes a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. Everett murmured, "Someone underestimated me and Lincoln in this game of wits." Harper smirked. "Now they'll face the evidence head-on." Before leaving the cabin, Lincoln issued final instructions. "My flight to London is at dawn. Harper, you go with Preston to Singapore to ensure the evidence is processed. Everett, you lead the press." They nodded in unison, stepping into the warm wooden hallway, leaving only hurried footprints behind. As the cabin door closed, the night enveloped everything. But one thing was certain. The fraud network was exposed, and its mastermind, Seraphia Everhart, had no escape. The silence after the cyberstorm was merely a pause before the face-to-face showdown. As the midnight chime of an incoming call pierced the quiet, Lincoln Hawthorne frowned at his phone screen. An anonymous message flashed. "If you want him to live, come to Bryant Park at 2 a.m. Come alone." His heart froze. It was the voice of Archer Blackwood, the traitor who'd betrayed both him and the company, now a hostage in a tightly woven plot. Without a second's delay, he called Preston Carlisle, his voice urgent through the earpiece. "Preston, has Harper Sterling sent you the data?" On the other end, Preston's tone was grave. "She has, Lincoln. I just confirmed a live video call showing Archer tied up in an abandoned warehouse. They've got him, and say only you can save him." In the heart of Manhattan, Harper Sterling sat in a black van tucked behind a row of ancient trees, her eyes strained through binoculars. She listened to the clicks and heavy footsteps echoing from her FBI earpiece. The laptop beside her displayed a jittery feed. Archer Blackwood slumped in a rotting wooden chair in the dark, mouth taped shut. White text crawled across the black screen. 2 a.m. Bryant Park Reservoir. You make it or else, before cutting off, leaving a chilling threat. Harper sprang up, her voice trembling. "Lincoln, they're playing mind games. He's setting this up to lure you into a trap." But Lincoln Hawthorne pressed a hand to his chest, nodding silently to himself. The only choice was to go, whatever the cost. He threw on a black leather jacket, his tall frame gliding through the empty hallway, each step heavy with life or death stakes. Before leaving the building, he turned to Monroe Blake, his loyal assistant. "Call security, lock down all exits before I return. Don't let them hit us from behind." Her voice rushed, "Yes, Mr. Hawthorne," and she hung up. Unlike his covert moves, Harper Sterling had repositioned the van to a corner across from Bryant Park, where a street lamp illuminated a stone bench by the man-made reservoir. She spoke through the radio. "I'm at position H3, 50 meters out, behind the bushes. Preston and the team are trailing, ready to move when you expose their game." A faint radio reply crackled. "Copy. Harper. Stand by." The surroundings melted into the night, only moonlight casting shadows of trees and the city's red-green glow like dragon eyes on watch. Lincoln Hawthorne stepped onto the icy stone bench, scanning the reservoir and the reflected buildings. A gusty wind swept golden leaves across the damp path, as if reminding him of life's fragility. He set his phone on his knee, heart pounding. Minutes later, a figure emerged from the right. He turned, spotting a person in a dark green trench coat, a wool cap pulled low. The figure sat one bench away, silent for a moment before pulling out a phone and aiming the camera at Lincoln. "Hello, Mr. Hawthorne." A low, distorted voice echoed from the phone speaker. Lincoln exhaled slowly, suppressing his emotions, muttering, "Archer?" No reply came, only a mocking smile from the shadows. The figure raised the phone, streaming a new video feed. Archer Blackwood, on his knees, face pale, limbs bound tightly, his trembling voice crackled through. Lincoln, you have to choose. Come alone, or I'm done. In the final moment of silence, the wind roared, mussing Lincoln's hair. His face betrayed a gnawing conflict. Save a friend or expose the enemy. Amid the quiet night, the drip of the reservoir fountain mingled with the guard chime from the radio. Lincoln, FBI has sealed all park entrances. Preston awaits your signal. He lifted the radio, speaking softly. Harper, I know this is a double-layered trap. They're using Archer as bait to draw me in. Harper's voice cut through like icy fire. Exactly. Decide in 30 seconds. Preston and the team are ready, but we need your call. Want me to trace the video's origin? Lincoln closed his eyes, inhaling deeply as if searching for a red thread in a labyrinth. When he opened them, he nodded firmly. Okay, I'll signal, but we need to confirm the hostage is still alive. He glanced at the figure still cloaked in anonymity. Behind the bushes, faint footsteps. Preston Carlisle and 2 FBI agents in concealed gear, weapons ready. He brushed a hand over his jacket, exhaling long. Harper, send the signal. Preston, move in. The radio crackled with an immediate go. FBI flashlights blazed and agents burst through the bushes, closing in on the figure beside him. The harsh light startled the stranger, who lunged for the phone. In a fleeting flash, Lincoln saw the face. Not Archer Blackwood, but a stranger with a scar on his right cheek. As Agent Carlisle closed in, the man scrambled, clutching the phone as he darted into the dark. Before vanishing, he hissed, "You'll regret this." The shadows swallowed him, leaving only the FBI radios, suspect down, evidence seized. Lincoln stood frozen by the reservoir, hand reaching to touch the night's ripples. A painful truth hit. Archer Blackwood wasn't before him, and this intricate trap with countless turns wasn't over. Through the phone, the final hostage feed showed a hammer's click, locking tight, signaling a new ultimatum. 2:30 a.m. East Wing storage. If you want to live, come. They had no choice. Harper Sterling switched off the radio, whispering, "Lincoln, now it's a real hunt." Preston Carlisle stepped up, hand on his shoulder. "We've surrounded the warehouse, but there might be an insider." He eyed Lincoln sharply. "You sure you want to keep going?" Lincoln's gaze held no doubt. "We're too far to turn back." Their footsteps left Bryant Park, abandoning the silent night, with only the sound of hurried steps and flickering flashlights. The Manhattan night cast shadows of electronic stars across the glass walls of Mr. Hawthorne Technologies' penthouse, as Lincoln Hawthorne stepped into the vast living room. 3 months had passed since the chaotic night in Central Park. Preston Carlisle's FBI agents had stormed in, arresting Serafina Everhart's henchmen, while she herself, gravely injured, awaited trial. Archer Blackwood, after turning himself in and cooperating, received a lenient sentence, and the company made a stunning recovery in reputation. Yet, this newfound peace was only surface deep. Beneath it, psychological undercurrents and financial pulses lay waiting to be explored. Lincoln stood gazing at the city lights, reflecting off the raindrops swaying on the towering windows, a strange feeling swelling within him, pride mingled with gratitude. The stormy chapter had closed, and now it was time to look to the future. He turned to see Harper Sterling quietly appearing at the doorway, dressed in sharp slacks and a crisp white blouse, a far cry from the janitor's uniform she wore months ago. In her hand was an invitation from Lincoln's office, invitation to the board meeting and the August Sterling Foundation groundbreaking ceremony. Soft music drifted from the hidden ceiling speakers, a gentle jazz tune setting the stage for a pivotal moment. Monroe Blake, Lincoln's loyal secretary through it all, entered with a smile. "Mr. Hawthorne, it's time," she said, handing him a small envelope containing an internal contract appointing Harper Sterling as Director of Internal Security and co-founder of the August Sterling Foundation. He gave a slight nod, his eyes warm. "Thank you, Monroe." As they entered the boardroom, the circular table was already filled with board members. The room erupted in applause to welcome Harper. Now, exuding the confidence of an industry leader, Lincoln took her hand and introduced her. "Thank you all for being here. Today we're not only reviewing the internal investigation results, but also launching the August Sterling Foundation, where Harper Sterling and I will develop enterprise security training programs in memory of August Sterling, who inspired her." Thunderous applause followed, with many faces visibly moved with pride. A PowerPoint flickered to life, detailing the past 3 months, from warning emails to bait scenarios, from intense confrontations with the Genesis team to the recovery of stock prices. Under the lights, the numbers showed a 25% revenue rebound and 40 legal cases settled in court. Harper delivered a concise presentation on network monitoring efforts, log collection, and coordination with Preston Carlisle. Her voice was hoarse but steady. "No technology is completely secure, but with proactive defense strategies and a professional team, we can protect our data, reputation, and client trust." After the meeting, the group moved to the main lobby, where a plaque bearing the name August Sterling Foundation was draped in red fabric. Everett Sinclair took the microphone, sharing, "I'm thrilled to join Lincoln and Harper in this mission. As technology surges, security must stay one step ahead. This isn't just a signature on paper. It's a commitment to protecting human values and fair business." Lincoln Hawthorne stepped beside Harper Sterling, grasping the fabric and gently pulling it down. As the red cloth fell, the foundation's logo gleamed, depicting an open lock symbolizing knowledge and ethics. Applause echoed through the hall, surrounded by camera flashes and the beaming faces of guests. Lincoln turned to Harper, whispering, "We did it." She responded with a warm smile, her eyes sparkling with uncontainable joy. As the ceremony ended, guests mingled at the outdoor cocktail area, under lantern lights with elegantly arranged wine racks and canapé tables. Preston Carlisle appeared, raising a glass. "Congratulations to you both. This foundation will be a beacon for enterprise security." Harper clinked her glass, her exhaustion fading, replaced by a glow of pride. "Thank you, and the FBI, for your unwavering support." As the night deepened, only Lincoln Hawthorne and Harper Sterling remained on a balcony corner, the lake below reflecting the city's shimmering lights. A gentle breeze prompted Lincoln to drape his coat over Harper's shoulders in a tender, instinctive gesture. He spoke softly, eyes fixed on the horizon. "These past 3 months, you've sacrificed so much. It's time I let you know how much you mean to me." Harper looked down at their intertwined hands, her heart beating to a sweet rhythm. "I just did what was right," she whispered. He didn't wait, leaning down to kiss her gently, firmly, as if affirming, no more secrets, no more fears, just 2 people who had triumphed over fate. Under the soft golden glow, that kiss marked the end of a tumultuous chapter and the beginning of a new one, where love and trust became the foundation for all future plans. 3 months of storms had passed, and now Lincoln Hawthorne and Harper Sterling were no longer just colleagues or allies, but soulmates, ready to move forward, together conquering new goals in a world full of challenges but brimming with hope. After experiencing the thrilling journey of Lincoln Hawthorne and Harper Sterling, we truly grasp the power of loyalty, the sacrifice of Everett Sinclair, and the razor-sharp tactics of Preston Carlisle. A heartfelt thank you to Monroe Blake and our viewers for joining us. See you in the next gripping episodes of Millionaire and Heart Stories.